Orlando calls itself the theme park capital of the world, drawing 75 million visitors every year, but beneath that glittering facade lies an urban disaster. Roads rank among America's deadliest. Daily life depends on a car, and service workers can barely afford to live anywhere near where they work. Why did one of the nation's fastest growing cities become the opposite of how a city should work? The answer starts with a story Disney never told. In the decades before Orlando became a household name, the city was a quiet dot on the Florida map, an agricultural outpost where citrus groves stretched for miles, and the biggest employer was the local air base. That began to change when Lockheed set up shop in the late 1950s, bringing aerospace jobs and a whiff of the future. But nothing prepared city leaders for what happened in 1971, when Walt Disney World flung open its gates. Almost overnight, Orlando's population curve shot upward. Families, workers, and dreamers poured in, drawn by the promise of steady jobs and the bright lights of Main Street, USA. By 1980, the region's population had more than doubled, and the growth didn't stop there. The city's visitor count ballooned from a few 100,000 a year to tens of millions. Today, Orlando welcomes 75 million visitors annually, more than most countries see in a year. The city's economy shifted on its axis, with tourism powering nearly 4 out of every 10 jobs and pouring billions into local coffers. But the city's roads, schools, and housing stock were built for a sleepy town, not for a global destination. Local officials scrambled to keep up, approving new subdivisions and hotel towers at a dizzying pace. When a historic freeze wiped out much of the citrus industry in the 1980s, even more land was snapped up for resorts and sprawling neighborhoods. Growth was relentless, and the city's ability to manage it lagged far behind. The result was a place where demand outstripped capacity at every turn, and the need for extraordinary solutions, like special governance districts, became impossible to ignore. On May 12, 1967, Florida's governor signed a law that would have raised eyebrows in any civics classroom. The Reedy Creek Improvement Act handed Disney the kind of power usually reserved for entire counties: the right to zone land, levy taxes, issue bonds, build roads, and even operate its own fire department. The district's 5-member board was chosen by landowners, meaning Disney, as the overwhelming owner, called every shot. Local governments watched from the sidelines as Disney poured concrete and laid pipes to its own specifications, free from the mess of public hearings or neighborhood complaints. The result was a legal bubble, 47 square miles wide, where the rules bent to fit the needs of a single corporation and its guests. Within Reedy Creek, priorities were crystal clear. Infrastructure dollars flowed to widen roads for buses and rental cars, not to build neighborhoods or parks for future residents. Water, power, and emergency services were engineered to handle millions of visitors, but housing for workers barely made the drawing board. The district's independence insulated Disney from local politics, tax debates, and the slow grind of regional planning. For decades, the arrangement stood unchallenged, a legal oddity hiding in plain sight. That changed in 2023 when a new law stripped Disney of its boardroom advantage. The governor now appoints the district's leaders, and the name is different, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, but the essential powers remain. The statute, once a quiet backstage pass for Disney, is now a public spectacle, still shaping the land around Orlando to fit the demands of visitors first. The city's future, for better or worse, continues to be written in the fine print of a law designed for a kingdom of fantasy. From above, Orlando's urban form looks less like a city and more like a patchwork of islands, each one a self-contained resort, hotel cluster, or subdivision floating in a sea of asphalt and grass. Walt Disney World alone claims 40 square miles, an area as large as San Francisco, yet nearly all of it is reserved for visitors, not residents. The land is carved into theme parks, golf courses, lakes, and sprawling parking lots, with the nearest neighborhoods kept at arm's length. Beyond the resort gates, the pattern repeats. Zoning laws across Metro Orlando lock down the majority of residential land for single-family homes, about 68% in Orange County, over 70% in Seminole, and more than half within Orlando's city limits. High-rise apartments and corner stores are rare sights, and the few that do exist are tucked away in pockets, not woven into the daily fabric. Commercial zones cluster along wide arterial roads, separated from homes by buffers of grass and retention ponds. This is a city built with distance in mind. distance between where people sleep, where they work, and where they play. The result is a landscape that stretches for miles, but rarely thickens, forcing everything to spread outward. Infrastructure must chase after the growth, laying down new roads, pipes, and power lines across ever larger distances. The cost of serving such a scattered population keeps rising, while the dream of a walkable, vibrant neighborhood feels as remote as the Magic Kingdom itself. The cost of calling Orlando home has soared far beyond what the city's workers can afford. Rents have climbed to a median of $1,400 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, while the typical service worker earns less than $25,000 a year. That means a hotel housekeeper or theme park cashier can spend more than half their income just to keep a roof overhead, if they can find a place at all. Mortgage payments for a modest home now average $2,100 a month, pricing out even dual-income families with steady jobs in the hospitality sector. For many, the only option is to move farther out. A 30-mile commute from Poinciana or Deltona is routine, with workers rising before dawn and returning home long after dark. The hidden costs pile up: car payments, fuel, repairs, and hours lost to traffic jams. Parents miss school events and family dinners, not because they want to, but because the city's shape makes it nearly impossible to live near where they work. Cities like Portland and Miami have charted a different course. Portland's transit-oriented neighborhoods and dense zoning keep commutes short and housing costs more balanced, while Miami's recent investments in regional rail and mixed-use development have helped stem the tide of displacement. In Orlando, the promise of affordable housing close to jobs remains out of reach, leaving the people who power the city's economy with the longest journeys and the heaviest burdens. Interstate 4 slices through Orlando like a high-speed artery, but it's earned a reputation that no city wants. Stretching from Tampa to Daytona Beach, the highway's Orlando segment is the deadliest in the nation, with fatality rates topping 1 death per mile. Morning rush brings a mix of tourists, delivery trucks, and exhausted commuters, all jockeying for space on lanes that seem perpetually clogged. On January 9, 2008, a wall of fog and smoke turned a routine drive into a nightmare. Over 70 vehicles collided in a chain reaction, leaving 4 dead and dozens injured. First responders picked their way through twisted metal and burning cars, describing the chaos as overwhelming, even by Florida standards. The I-4 Ultimate Reconstruction poured $2.3 billion into new lanes and toll expressways, but the carnage hasn't stopped. For many, the highway is less a route to work or play, and more a daily gamble with fate. Orlando's transit network leaves thousands stranded in a daily maze of delays and mounting costs. The Sunrail commuter train shuts down by early evening and skips weekends entirely, while the Lynx bus system struggles with low frequency and patchy coverage. For hospitality workers with shifts that start before sunrise or end after midnight, public transit isn't an option, it's a gamble. The cost of owning and maintaining a car can swallow up nearly a third of a service worker's paycheck. Yet without it, jobs and basic services are out of reach. When Hurricane Irma hit in 2017, these gaps became a matter of survival. Evacuation traffic clogged every major road, with some routes taking 3 times longer than normal. Shelters filled quickly, and those without cars or reliable transit faced impossible choices: stay behind in harm's way or rely on luck and neighbors. In Orlando, mobility is both a daily burden and a hidden risk, especially for those who keep the city running. In 2024, Orlando welcomed over 75 million visitors, making tourism 37% of the region's jobs and shaping nearly every decision about the city's growth. Since Disney World's opening in 1971 and the creation of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, local power and land use have prioritized visitor experience over resident needs. The result is a sprawling metro dominated by single-family zoning and resort complexes, where service workers face median commutes of 30 miles and housing costs that outpace wages. Interstate 4 remains among the nation's deadliest highways, while Sunrail and Lynx offer limited relief. Despite billions invested in roads, pedestrian fatalities persist and car dependency is nearly universal. The city's governance structure has shifted, but many land use and transit policies remain unchanged. Experts agree that Orlando's challenges are the result of deliberate planning choices, yet whether meaningful reform can retrofit the sprawling landscape is still uncertain. What is clear, Orlando stands as a case study in how prioritizing tourism over residents can shape a city's destiny, with consequences that endure long after the tourists go home.